Join us Monday mornings at 8:45 a.m. and Thursdays 6:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time. See you then. Hi, welcome to Awakenings Within, Thursday evening show. And how are you today, Bob?
Well, good question. I'm awake. I'm alive.
2 ups. Okay.
Exactly.
2 thumbs up.
Exactly. I had no major disasters today. Nobody yelled at me.
Yay.
I didn't make any giant mistakes. I didn't, you know what I mean? It was like, basically an overall good day so far.
Awesome. Well, hey, let's say hi to our peeps. Hi, Heather. Hi, Jocelyn. Oh, so good to see you. Hi, Larry. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. So nobody yelled at you today. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
But as we were discussing before on the show, you're wearing a different color.
I'm wearing what?
A different color.
I know. Just for you. Just to mess you up. Sometimes we get into ruts and routines and we just sort of have expectations. And so every once in a while, I got to throw a little curveball at you. You know what I mean?
Curveball.
Exactly.
Curveball.
But no yellow or orange tonight. So none of my Joseph Company global colors.
Oh, I didn't realize those were your theme colors.
Okay, now look at the picture back there. See, Joseph Company global. We got blue. And then we got a little yellow that goes to orange,
Right.
Yes.
Right. Well, I'm matching our Awakenings Within colors, right?
Oh, okay.
So Awakening Within. So, wow. It's been a long 4 days. Thursday. Oof. He's yelling. Who's yelling at Bob? Hi, Lynn. Thanks for joining.
Larry's yelling at me.
Yelling at Bob?
Yeah, because nobody yelled at me today. So Larry's going to just mess my day up.
Yes.
So that now I have to go to bed at night and go, somebody yelled at me.
Nobody yelled at me. Yeah.
Good.
Well,
yelling
at Bob.
A very tense place at the moment. So there's a lot of, a lot of short tempers out there. So if you can go through a day without somebody getting snippy, snappy, yelling at you, it's a good day.
Yeah. Well, Jocelyn, we are so glad to see you back, dear. So okay. I'm so glad to see her back.
Great.
There you go. Thanks for joining us. So interesting week. I've watched, I don't know, so many podcasts this week. I mean, I'm like, I have to admit, probably Larry.
Are you a pea in a pod now?
Ooh, I'm a pea in the pod. And I know Heather's been watching podcasts. Lots of podcasts. Okay, this is the deal. Why is it called a podcast? Like, I thought it was called live streaming. I thought it was called lives. I thought it's got all these different names now. Like, you don't even know what it's called.
Okay, so one of our listeners got to do what my granddaughter always tells me, Papa, we have to Google it. So somebody Google why are podcasts called podcasts?
Well, so some of them say podcast. The podcasts are the ones that are audio only, is what I was under this understanding of. And then the live streams are the video ones, correct? But some people generalize and just call them podcasts.
Got it.
So I don't know.
I need to respond to Jocelyn, who asked, what about Bob? So
what about Bob?
What about Bob? Baby steps.
What about Bob?
Baby steps.
Baby steps.
Yeah, that's
we Google everything.
And what about Bob? Baby steps.
Baby steps.
Baby
steps. So the theme on every podcast this week was authenticity or being vulnerable or showing or emoting your feelings on
Mhm.
these live streams. So that's been an interesting twist because I didn't just see it on one, I saw it on three different. And they're all three different mediums, three different platforms. One was for a masterclass for selling, one was for live streaming. The other one, where was I watching that one? Like just a psychology one. And I was like, what is the deal with authenticity and vulnerability? And it really kind of touched something with me because it's really funny on my journey in the last couple years, authenticity and vulnerability is what's really come to center, is what's really had to break for me personally. So for that to be the theme is just very interesting to me. So I don't think our audience kind of knows either one of our stories. So I kind of want to twist this a little bit about that place of becoming authentic, the first time that your authenticity was showing, because I know you talk about it in your book. So I know that you went through that, like you're like, oh, okay, this is how it is. And then you had a paradigm shift and a perspective shift, and then you had to become authentic, right? So I think that's what happens. I think we have to hit this wall before we can actually become authentic and vulnerable. And so I just kind of want to talk about that, what that looks like and right now and what we're going through in this, and I'm going to say the pandemic again, as we've gone through this, because there's so many different changes. What is bringing out that authenticity and that vulnerability? Why is it that we are focusing on that as a topic? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you just opened up like a chasm space, like opportunity here, because I could go a lot of different directions. But let me just say a couple things on the front end of this. One, what we're talking about, vulnerability and authenticity, is interestingly a generational shift. Because if you stop and think about it, right, our grandparents came from a generation where very few people were ever vulnerable. And most people in the older generations, they were secret keepers. They kept their cards very close to the chest.
Yes.
Right? I know, in our family, my grandfather was sort of in an ivory castle, like he was untouchable, like he was other, you know what I mean?
Right.
And then, as I was getting raised up, I had a mother who was someone in search of authenticity. And so I watched her go through some struggles, both within the religious world, within the political world, civil rights, women's rights, all these things that were very alive in her. But because of the social, 1950s, there was sort of this model of what a woman should be. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so you couldn't be vulnerable, and you really couldn't be authentic because culture told you that this is the box you have to stay in. You're going to be a good wife.
Right. Put on your pearls and your makeup and greet your husband at the door.
The most shocking moment of my life?
Yeah.
I'm in third grade. I come running in the door from school, and there's my mom sitting at the kitchen table. My mom, my pristine mom, who's so perfect, smoking Virginia Slims.
Virginia Slims.
For people who don't understand the correlation, but in the 60s, Virginia Slims were considered the woman's cigarette for the liberated woman, right?
That's right. That's right.
Oh my God, there I was. I walk in and I realize, oh my God, it's Gloria Steinem and my mom.
Oh no.
And I was stunned. Like I wasn't prepared for this moment, but she was trying to be authentic. You know what I mean? She was trying to say something. She was, in a way, being vulnerable, right? She was, and so that's in some ways where I first kind of had my eyes open to the whole thing.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, right. Now let's come to our children. right? So we're talking about our grandparents, ourselves,
Yeah.
right? Our
Yeah.
children. And excuse my straightforwardness here, but our millennial children have a bullshit meter that is so finely tuned, they see right through it.
Is that what it is?
I call it a bullshit meter. I mean, they just not into BS.
Heather's mom smokes Virginia Slims.
Exactly.
My mom smoked L&M. L&M's.
Okay.
I don't know what those. I mean, I don't know what the differences were, but
yeah. Well, it was the marketing. You know what I mean? The marketing of Virginia Slims.
Right. She was like this. Yeah, I remember.
Sitting at my mom, who I'd never seen smoke in my whole life, is suddenly at the table smoking Virginia Slims. And I was just like traumatized.
What did your father think of that?
Those were battles that were done behind bedroom doors. All I know is I heard a lot of yelling back there because my dad and my mom were very different. My dad was what I call the company man. He was that loyal foot soldier. I mean, he was the guy that at the parade, if we didn't take our hats off when the flag went by, we got slapped upside the back.
Oh no!
Whacked in the back of the head. You know what I mean? He was all about conformity. You know what I mean?
That's
my mom had this rebellious streak in her.
So funny.
Because she was like me. She always wanted to know why. Well, who made those rules? Why do I have to think like that? You know what I mean?
Oh,
yeah. So mom had a few battles.
I would say yes.
So getting back to what's going on. So
what's going on? Like right now? Why is this topic?
There's different motives going on here. So you're asking a big question. So when you're into the sales world, right, in the marketing world,
yep.
Part of the reason why they're all talking authenticity is because the big buying generation is the millennials who have a highly tuned BS meter.
Really?
So you cannot sell products without authenticity to the millennials. They won't put up with it.
So you showing your authentic feelings or whatever in what you're selling, that's going to sell them
to the millennials.
But why? I mean,
you know, what's odd for me is, I sort of live in two worlds, Africa and here. And I once, I started going back to Africa. One of the questions that was going through my head, do African millennials who are completely detached from American millennials, are they the same way? And I got over there and they were. They're just like American kids. They just not interested. They just have no problem calling out the older generation on their BS. They don't put up with it. They're not interested in it. They're tired.
Well, okay. So
there's the marketing side to this. You see what I'm going with it?
So yes. So what you're saying is the reason we were not our authentic selves and vulnerable is because society had melded us that way already.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we remember you and I grew up in a world where conformity was how you got ahead.
Yeah.
Right. And the 60s came along and
you had to wear Gloria Vanderbilt and you had Arvida. Yeah. You had to wear the Levi's and the whatever in high school. Right. And but isn't that still that way? Hi, Jeff. Isn't it still that
way? Still is, but I'm just saying generally, because I'm not, we could all come up with examples where this isn't true, but as a general generational trend, the millennials just don't want the hype.
Yeah.
They're very suspicious of it. They just kind of roll their eyes. And when you listen to them talk, they're very honest. They don't, you know what I mean? They don't dance around. They're not as politically correct as we are. They just say it.
Yeah, they do.
As we say.
My sons and I have had quite authentic conversations, where they'll say, "Mom, blah blah blah," and I'm like, "Are you supposed to talk to me like that?" Like, and I like Heather just put up here. There's a book called Untamed. I saw that too. Breaking
my
out.
Facebook post today was about about how all the innovators and game changers were the people that were labeled rebellious or weird.
Yeah.
So
It's true.
yeah.
I'm
So
not.
that's
I've
one
never
side of
ever.
the equation.
Yeah,
Why
I'm
the
not a
marketing.
conformity girl. I've not ever been a conformity girl. Like I was not that person. So I don't know if it was the way I was raised or not, or I don't know. But I wasn't authentic in the Christian world. Right?
Well, that's another whole issue. So if you want to start talking about authenticity in the Christian world, now you're going to get into another whole pet peeve of
Ooh.
mine because
Well,
it's
that
highly
is
lacking.
there's a piece there of that you have, which I know because you and I have talked, and I have, and I was kind of stuck in a box, and it bleeds into other things, that Christian, not Christian, but the church world, the organized church world.
But it's not
It's not a
unique.
Christian world; it's a organized.
Right. It's not
setting.
unique to Christianity
Right. That's what I'm
because,
saying. It's an organized.
this is the same
Yeah.
battle Jesus had. And he
Yeah.
was dealing with the Jewish religious leaders.
Right.
But
When he was
remember, that was his whole issue with them.
Mhm.
You guys are whitewashed tombs. You stink.
Yeah.
You pretend one thing, but you're something else. I mean,
Right.
Jesus was all about authenticity.
Right.
And boy, if you weren't authentic, he just ripped into you. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, that's what his whole message, and that's exactly where I was going with this. His whole message all the time was about being authentic and vulnerable, right? I mean, like allowing something else to move you and to motivate you.
Well, here's one of the great ironies in the religious world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that in the institutional world, if you're trying to please men, you can be unauthentic. You know what I mean? You can be self-righteous and put on. But it's like, you think you're fooling God? I always thought that was really funny. You know what I mean? It's like there's a whole church culture about being, conforming, and so a lot of people go to church on Sunday and they put on a Sunday self, right?
Well,
it's very different than another. What's that?
I personally was being authentic with some things happening in my world, sin wise, but I wasn't being authentic on how I felt about it. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Like I was being transparent with what was happening, but I wasn't being transparent on how I really felt.
Well,
because I was being told to be this way. I was being told I needed to react this way to it because I was a Christian. And so I wasn't still being my authentic self because I wasn't being allowed to be. I was still being told, well, since you are a Christian, this is your template on how you are to react to this sin. Right. So I was told ABC, and so I followed that, because that's kind of what I thought I was supposed to do. And then when things didn't get better for me personally, that's when all of it just, that's when I had to break out of that and become really authentic and vulnerable and really, tell my real feelings on it and come out and about and, divorce and that kind of thing. That it was kind of messy. So, but that was the thing is I always thought I was being authentic until one point I was like, oh, I'm not. I'm just following a pattern. I'm following a template that somebody else is telling me to, but that's not really how I feel. And that's not really
what the question always is why do we do that? And the reason is we want to be accepted. We want to belong. Yeah. Right.
Well, when you're in leadership, you're supposed to be the example. So when you're supposed to be the example, you're not supposed to have those issues anyway.
Yeah, well, that's the theory anyways. After doing this for 40 years, I can tell you that's not really the case, but yes, in theory.
Right. Exactly. So I had a battle not even within my own self, but I had a battle around me, and what I can say, because of course this is called Awakenings Within for a reason, is that my awakening was that God still loved me and that Jesus still loved me and that I was still needed to follow what he had put in front of me, and that I needed to not worry about the people and pleasing them, and that he was telling me things. He was the one.
Here's the irony of the whole world of religion, institutional religion, which is that conformity, external conformity without heart reality actually just causes people to sin more.
Yeah.
If you go back and you actually get into my world and do the research, you find that the groups that have the most strict outward, you can't do this rules, are the ones that have the biggest problem with sin. And the reason is because all of us become Christians, or we go on this journey because we want intimacy with God, right? That's the quest. We're all in search of this friendship with God.
Right.
Well, religion doesn't offer that.
Right. They say you'll be blessed.
That.
Right? They give you this ticket.
If you do all these things, right? Oh, God's going to be with you.
He's going to bless you.
Right. And then suddenly there you are and you're doing all this stuff and you're just like, okay, this feels really empty. Where's God in it all?
Waiting. Right. Yeah.
So what ends up happening is then you start feeling shame, right? Because something's wrong. He's not doing it right. And then because we're in shame, then we go act out and do all the things that we're not supposed to do, right? And a lot of it gets sexualized. I mean, the reason why people in religious circles end up getting very sexual is because of the fact they're looking for intimacy. And so when they can't find it through religion, then they just go back to trying to find it in humans.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. There you go.
Yeah. No, it's that's what I'm saying. It's like more that sort of external driven religious dynamic actually causes people to sin more, in my experience.
Yeah. It can stifle if you don't have the right foundation going in. If you don't have that right foundation going into leadership and ministry and all of those things, and you have, it can be, it's a battleground. I mean, you're walking into a battleground. You are.
See, it's the root of it. If you're doing all those things because it's coming out of your heart, right? Remember, Jesus is all about motive. So it's coming out of your heart, right? Yeah. In other words, a natural fruit of this intimate relationship you have with God. When you don't have that and you're trying to do the stuff, right? Yeah. It actually causes the exact opposite thing to happen. And we feel inferior, rejected, shame. I mean, we beat ourselves up. I mean, it's just this endless thing. And so where do we go?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where do we go?
Our sinful nature.
Yeah. And you know who wrestled with that? The great writer of Romans, who kept saying, I keep doing what I don't want to do.
Right. Exactly. I mean, that is the epitome. You go back and you go, oh yeah, Paul said that. He said that. He even said that. Like, why do I keep doing the things that I'm not supposed to do?
So this is interesting. So let's get back to vulnerability, because I think you're onto something here. Because vulnerability is actually the driving force for connection.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
You cannot have connection without vulnerability.
That's right.
I know that's hard for some people to like, oh my God, it's true, right? Because being vulnerable is very risky, right?
It is. You're putting yourself out there.
Right.
Yeah. You're putting your story out there.
You feel defenseless, your guard's down. But the problem is the paradox, right? In order to get connection, we have to, it's like you have to let your drawbridge down at your castle. You got to let people in, right? So so again, when there's no vulnerability in religion, there's no connection.
Right. Like in
The
anything.
same thing in any relationship, marriage,
Anything.
right? We
Mhm.
both
In a relationship, right? Any relationship. That's right.
So it's it's risky.
Yeah.
It's scary.
But I mean, it's just interesting that after this, it's interesting that during COVID and during the pandemic that we all have almost come to that place. I feel like it's pushed us into this other zone because we had to come out of our comfort zones, and now we're going into somewhere else, and we're like, oh, now we need to be our authentic, vulnerable selves.
Again, remember if you read part of my book, what I talk about in there is that there's a driving force coming out of Silicon Valley that wants to make technology sort of the superhighway of everything, right?
Yeah.
But the problem with technology is it's not human, right? It doesn't have emotions and feelings. You can't connect with it. You can connect it, but you can't connect with it, right? So what COVID did was drove us all into isolation. Yes. And how we've been relating with each other is through technology.
I know.
Right?
Go figure. Yeah.
But so we're connecting, but we're not connecting. Does that make sense?
We're connecting, but we're not connecting.
Right. You see what I mean?
Kind of connecting.
No, I mean, we need to be touched.
We're in the 2D, right? Isn't it 2D?
Yeah. But humans need to be touched.
That's true.
We need to be hugged.
Yeah, I know. Right? I know. The hug
connection. See, humans have to connect.
Who needs a hug? Don't we all need a hug?
And that's so what's happening right now is that people are so tired, right, of being isolated. They're so tired of relating to each other. You know, they used to go into work and you connected, right? You touched people, you connect, you had friends. It was interrelational. All that's gone now. You're like, we're doing this. It's like you and I, we're connecting, but we're not.
Like, hey, I know. I've only seen you once 3D. I think one time.
Right.
I was like, oh, you look different 3D.
Soul right now is longing for connection.
It's true.
So but we know in order to have it, you have to be
authentic,
vulnerable, and authentic, right?
Yes. My hair is driving me crazy. I'm sorry.
You're such a, you know what? My hair's driving me crazy
I can't see it.
Look at my hair. It's just a mess up there.
So that, I mean, that I think we're right. I think that we are starving for it. Right. And and that's what I was getting to is I think we're all talking about it because I think we're all starving for it. I think we're like, okay, well, we don't have normalcy over here. And we definitely don't have that connection, that human in-person connection, but we're trying to make connection through this. And we're trying to, and I think,
my granddaughter calls me on FaceTime, right? Because she wants connection. But then I realize as we're talking, what she really wants is a hug from her papa.
Right.
But I can't give her a hug because she's right. And so it's just this. I think one of the things that we all need to be very sober minded about is intentionality to connect.
Yeah.
I mean, we really need to work. I mean, we need this, right?
We do. And I think but I just find it fascinating that even in a master class, they're talking about authenticity and vulnerability being the vehicle to get you motivated to your why and your purpose and your all of that. And I'm thinking, well, that's where we're all at.
But it's a little bit hard right now. Okay, so let's go jump on the other side of this.
Yes.
So if you're vulnerable on Facebook, right, and you give an opinion, what happens?
Whew.
Right?
I already know. I already know.
You know
I got attacked. I got
oof. So guess what's happening? So here we have this technology called Facebook that is supposed to give us connection. But You know what's happened in the last 12 months?
Oh yeah, I
We've
do.
we're still connected, but we're not actually connecting because of
No.
the fact that people are actually very subdued in what they say and
That's because
very
they're being censored.
restrained in what's going on. So we're back to being even isolated, right? In our
No.
Isn't that
Yes,
weird?
it is. And well, we're being censored too. So on top of that, if well, I'm not, but others are
Right.
being censored and put in, I've seen so many people say I've been put in Facebook jail again, and I'm like, "Oh my, what did you do?" And it this is supposed to be a vehicle for us connecting. That's right. And I don't know, are we going to go back to in-person
Well,
events?
not for a
You know,
while,
that's the question. Are we? I actually
Well, we
watched
are.
the
I think.
Cardinals game.
I mean, a lot of people are doing it with their family. I mean, that's one of the
Yeah.
things. I mean, not everyone has a safe family, but you notice how it's so funny about family. You know what I mean? It's like you
There's
could
something funny about
fight
family.
like cats and dogs, but when there's a crisis, family just
They come together.
right? It's crazy how that works.
Yeah, Larry says connect and understand others. Yeah.
Well, I think most people have gone for some sort of connection as family. So for me, I mean, it sounds funny, but my big connection point is with my grandchildren.
Yeah.
And the reason being is my grandchildren are vulnerable and authentic. They haven't been spoiled yet, right? So I hang with them. I'm like, whoa, here's some just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, if you got something wrong, your grandkids will tell you, "Hey, you got something hanging on your nose, Papa." You know,
that's true.
Hey, Papa,
they will.
You're so fat, Papa. Like, Papa, you're old. Like, how old are you, Papa? Right? And they're so cute. You know what I mean? Because they're just
right.
They're so genuine. They're so authentic, right? And I hang with them, and I'm like, this is so refreshing.
Yeah, I think Heather says, I think this pandemic has made people more vulnerable, if not authentic. Yeah. I mean, what's funny about authenticity is sometimes you don't know that you're not authentic until you know. Until you're like,
unpack that now.
Okay. So I don't know about you, but when I was younger, climbing a career ladder, you know that term, fake it till you make it. Okay. Yeah. I don't use that anymore. But we were kind of told that was kind of our motto, right? So if you're faking it, that means you're not being authentic, right? So and then dress for success. Remember that? So we got to dress for the role that you want, right? And so I think there's good to that. I think visualizing what you want and going for it is a great thing. So that authenticity, it doesn't catch up. You're trying to be something that you're visualizing that you want to be, but you're not there yet. So is that being authentic?
Well, to be honest with you, facades are exhausting to maintain.
Oh, they are, aren't they?
So you know what a midlife crisis is?
What I think we
midlife crisis is when you hit the wall and you go, I'm so tired, I just don't have the energy to fake it anymore.
I don't like me.
Right. I don't like me. And so
I don't like
a lot
me.
of times what happens is where we got these friends, right? And we've been relating to them for a really long time.
Right.
And they get into their mid 40s or, late 40s, early 50s. And suddenly they just like freak out. Like they just do this crazy thing, right? Yes. And we're all like, as they say in the UK, gobsmacked, right? But the reality of it is for so long they've been faking it.
Yeah.
And they just finally go, you know what? I'm tired of faking it. I want to do what
You
I want to
do.
do what's inside, right? So they suddenly like sell their house and move to Alaska, or they go buy
Oh
a
God, when they do
motorcycle, or
that.
they get a new wife. No,
I know. I'm really mad about my midlife crisis. I'm really mad. It did not come with a Corvette like I thought it would.
oh
I
no.
thought that a Corvette was part of the deal.
Oh, did you? A red one? A red vet?
Yeah, a red one.
Oh, you
Why did I not?
you
And
drive
T-tops.
a red
It had to
vet.
have T-top. It had to have T-tops on it too. Like,
Oh,
why did my midlife crisis not get a sports car? I am mad about that. I need my money back. I mean, I'm mad.
so the whole journey of authenticity actually hits us all at some particular point.
Oh Lord, it
And
is hard.
with age, because you get tired. You just get older. You don't have the physical energy anymore to keep the props up. You know what I mean?
Well,
Keep all
you know what?
the theater staging, all up, and you just I'm tired. You know what I mean? So it's just like, I don't want to put my makeup on. I don't want to do my hair. This is me.
Yeah, Heather said hers was a toxic relationship. So I didn't get anything either, Heather. I got a pod, the smallest pod available. The smallest pod that you can rent is what I got. So, it was like my midlife
Sometimes
crisis.
what happens, like what Heather's talking about, is sometimes when we reach that point where we're just done being fake me, we swing. It's like, unfortunately with humans, we never really quite stay in the middle, right? So we go from one extreme to the other. So we go from one extreme of basically BSing the whole world that we're something that we're not. Then when we get exhausted, that we don't want to play that role anymore, then we swing to the other way, and then we get ourselves in trouble, right? Because it's like we overreact the other way, and we do the extreme on the other side, and then like, oh God, that didn't work either, right?
Yeah. So we drink wine and we overeat. And
we're authentic.
call it a day. That's what I say. That's what I say. No, I mean,
I just got to a point. So here's something. So let's get to the root of this.
I know we better get there because we're getting close, right?
Well, I don't know.
I didn't even know what time it is.
No, but people, there's a little secret here, because being vulnerable and being authentic aren't easy unless you have self-worth.
Yes.
Unless you are secure in yourself and you love yourself, right?
Yep.
I'm not talking about selfishness and self-centeredness. I'm talking about the fact that if you don't see value in yourself, it's almost impossible to be vulnerable or authentic because you are too scared and you don't think you deserve it.
There you go.
Right.
Worthiness. Yep.
Right.
Worthiness.
So there's a key to this. So it's not, let's all go out and be authentic. Let's all go out and be vulnerable, because unless you have worked on your sense of self-worth, right? And you realize, you know what? I'm worthy. I have a right and I'm valuable. And so I can be vulnerable. And here's why. Because when you have a sense of yourself, right?
Yep.
You have a sense of self-esteem, you have a sense of self-worth, you have a sense of self, right? And you're vulnerable, and somebody comes along and challenges you, you don't fall apart like a house of cards. Oh my God, they don't like me, right?
Yeah, you're like, whatever. You don't like it, lump it.
Right? So the problem is if you don't have self-worth and you're vulnerable, people use you, abuse you, and then you run back into your little cave and completely shut out.
Right.
So you got to have some roots. You got to have a foundation. You got to have something underneath, because vulnerability and authenticity are a fruit. They're not the root.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
And not the root.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In other words, you don't start there. You end up there. You start.
There you go, Heather. There you go, Heather.
I'm God's child. I have
That's right.
I have value. I'm worth it, right? My
Yeah.
opinion matters. My thoughts matter. The things I love matter. The things I care about, right? They matter.
Yep.
I
They
matter.
matter.
I
And
matter.
they only matter when I'm on my couch,
Right.
sitting
But
there
I'm
by
just saying,
myself.
when you realize I matter and I have a
That's-
right to
You're
matter
worth
and to voice, right? Then you're not
Yep.
as so easily shaken by when somebody comes along and they're like, oh, well, I don't like that. Oh, well, that's, too bad. Move on.
I have to say that my dating experience in the last year or so really helped me there.
Yeah.
Because well, I was never I was never a person that thought the other person in a relationship is what made me tick, like I was never motivated by that anyway. But, having to go through that whole process and getting over if somebody didn't text you back, or if they didn't ask you out again, or, all of those things that in my younger years and my younger self would have crushed me. I'd be like, oh, they don't like me, just like that. And now it's kind of like, I'm at that place now where I am confident in me, and I'm like, okay, my worth doesn't depend on somebody else liking me.
Which, of course, when you're a
I
teenager
like
growing
myself.
up, right? Your peer pressure, right?
Right.
So,
I like me, but it was a process, it was a journey, but it was getting real and authentic and vulnerable with myself, and stop kidding myself who I was, who I wasn't, what I liked, what I didn't. It really took me to hit that bottom to get there. I wouldn't have been able to do that and to like myself until I came to that rock bottom place. So, I mean, I that's just a journey I had been on. Let's see, I think we're here to serve each other and to bring out the greater good. And I agree with that. And I did that. But see, what I did unhealthily is I served others before I served myself. I served others all of those years before looking at myself, because I thought my worth was wrapped up in serving others. Does that make sense? So,
well, that's, we've talked about Cartman's triangle,
yeah,
rescuers, which
the
is
rescuer.
the church is filled with rescuers.
Yep.
But rescuers get their value by meeting needs.
Yeah. Yeah. It's still an ego thing. It's still a pride thing.
Still about you.
It's still a pride and an ego thing. It still is. Like when that smacked me upside the head, that was a pride thing, I was like, no way. I was like,
it's a self-worth thing too, because we feel good about ourselves.
Yeah. But I'm helping people. Well, you're helping people for what reason? So other people know that you're helping people, or are you helping people because can you do it? And I could. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Well, again, one of Jesus' things, right? That, don't do your good deeds in public. Do it in secret.
Public. Do it in secret. Right.
Because he was dealing with the very thing you're talking about. Yes. Right? Why are we doing what we're doing?
Then the people that take pictures of them helping a homeless person, that drives me. I'll probably lose some audience members on that one, but I think that is so demeaning. It's so horrible. Like don't take their picture,
Right.
They're in the worst part of their lives. I don't think they want their picture taken at that point, and you helping them one day, out of 365. I mean, are you know what I mean?
Saint Sandy.
Huh? Yeah.
Saint
No.
Sandy.
See, I didn't do it like that. I mean, I wasn't like, I was not that person, but I did think I wasn't doing something for the kingdom of God unless I was serving others. I was thinking that, and that was wrapped up in how did I really feel about Jesus? Did I really feel worthy of his love? Apparently not. Mine was wrapped up in duties. Like, right. Oh, I'm going to gain his love by if I do this, if I do that, if I do this, if I do that. And I didn't understand that whole grace thing. I didn't understand all of that.
My journeys, a lot of times, it's weird. I have this little voice inside of me that talks to me. So maybe I'm just schizophrenic, or it really is the Spirit of God. But years ago, this little voice said to me, "Why are you abdicating yourself?"
Oh.
Like, why are you abdicating? Why are you abdicating to other people's opinion about who you are? Do you not know who you are? Right. And I realized that so much of my life and my
Ooh.
sense of self-worth, I had abdicated to other
Ooh.
people to let them define me. Right.
Right.
I was
Right.
letting everyone else tell me who I was. Well, guess what happened in that scenario? I didn't realize it. It took me a few decades to figure it out. Everybody that was defining me was
Yes.
doing it for their own selfish ends.
Right. Because they needed you to be in a position to help them.
Touché.
I
Yeah.
wonder how I know that. How do I know that, Bob? I'm not positive how I know that.
So what happens is when you abdicate to others, your sense of self, right? They use
Yep.
you. I mean, you're just like
Oh,
a,
heck
you know,
yeah.
I mean, narcissists
Why
especially.
wouldn't
Like, everybody just looks at you and goes, "Oh my God!" I mean, she's just ripe for picking. Let's use
Oh,
her,
yeah.
right?
Yeah,
I mean, people just like a moth to light. I mean, they're there.
I think they see me before I even turn the corner. I think they hear my steps and they go, "Ooh, here comes one."
Right. So then what happens? Then it swings to the other side, because then when you get a sense of yourself, right, and you know who you are,
Uh-huh.
then you get the, oh, she's difficult to manage.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Oh,
Oh, yeah. She's high maintenance. I
Yeah.
heard that one. She's
yeah,
high
she's
maintenance.
tough. You know what I mean? Yeah.
She's really high maintenance,
It's a
man.
difficult relationship, right? Because you speak your mind, because you have an opinion, right? Because you don't conform. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep. That's right, Randall. Everybody has an agenda.
Right. If you don't realize it, so
Ooh.
that's how dangerous abdicating your sense of self, your definition of who you
Right.
are, to other people, because other human beings will, by nature,
We
define
do.
for themselves, right?
As confident as I am in myself and my worthiness,
Mm.
I can find myself still go into the old patterns of
Sure.
being wanting to be picked and wanting to be, I think
So do you have conversations inside your head about those things, or am I the only one that does that?
Yeah, I actually can hear the conversations in my head about,
Right.
well,
So you feel yourself
do I
going
want
down.
to
You know what I
be-
mean? Like suddenly you feel yourself slipping, and you go, "Stop that!" That's what I do.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Right.
Stop
Right.
it.
It's
You
a
know
self-
better.
It's self-negative talk. You're doing self-negative talk, and you've just got to replace that. You got to replace the tape.
But
You got to do
what
what
I
you
mean,
got to
when
do.
other people come along and they start to, right, and you find yourself just,
Yeah.
almost like grovel. You know what I mean? You find yourself
Yeah.
lowering yourself down because you want to be. And I find myself, hey, wait a minute, stop that! You're abdicating. You're abdicating, right?
Yeah. No, I
Get
do.
back in charge of your own life.
Yeah. I mean, that can happen in any time. Okay. So I've always said if you get more than 3 people together in anything that you're doing, more than 3, probably more than 2, maybe just 2, but then 3, there's a click thing. I used to always in high school, I had 2 best friends. And does that make sense? Right. So there was 3 of us. So we were like a triangle. Okay.
Mhm.
And one would always feel left out. Like the 2 would be really pally friends, and then the one would be left out. And then it would happen again. And just exactly like you were talking about the Cartman's
relational triangle.
Again, you move in that triangle. Like the one person's out, now she's in, now she's out, now she's like,
One minute she's the rescuer, then she's the victim, then she's the persecutor.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, there you go. So Heather's like me then. I mean, gosh, if people could see inside my head.
I talk all the time.
So here's how bizarre my brain is. Just sidebar. Kind of.
I'm scared.
When you said to me, let's do vulnerability tonight, you know what my brain want?
Oh.
1980s Olivia Newton-John. Let's get physical.
Huh.
And so my brain was going, let's get vulnerable. See, that's how weird my brain is. It like just takes off on its own, right?
I can hear it now. Thanks a lot.
I can't sing
now
it.
I can hear it.
But my brain just does that on its own. I didn't ask it to go there. It just went there. And I'm like singing all the way until this show. Let's get vulnerable.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Well, now that we're talking about vulnerable and
Mhm.
authenticity, I guess our folks can see that we don't have Suzanne. And we didn't really discuss it, but yes, she's taking a break. So just to let you guys know, so you don't think that we have her in the corner somewhere over here. So,
We're gonna roll her out at the end of the show.
yes, yes. So anyway, so
And now we don't have Cartman's Triangle anymore. What do we have
no,
here? It's not a
I
triangle.
know. I know. And we need to we'll have some guests. If you have a great topic or you are confident to come on our show, please let us know because I would like to know what you'd like to talk about.
Mhm.
That's for sure. And let's see.
So one of the things, so let's get back to vulnerability, because the
Let's get
reality
back.
of it is vulnerability is high risk, high reward,
High risk, high reward.
right? So how do you manage risk? Because what's the risk of being vulnerable?
The risk is that you will be found out.
Well, people
You'll be found
ridicule
out to be
you, they'll shame
offended,
you,
right?
right? So it's like, it's sort of like, okay, being vulnerable is like, okay, open up, and then you got no protection and everybody's going to shoot you, right?
Right.
So,
Yep.
so that's the fear of why I can't be vulnerable. So, in my view, because I realize that vulnerability is the key to connection. Like, you cannot connect without it to another human.
Right.
You can talk, you can have but you cannot connect without it, right? So it's you have to take the risk. So then it becomes about wisdom, right? It's managing the risk, and that's
Right.
called wisdom, right? Because what I've noticed is there's some people out there that are just really not wise, and they're like being vulnerable to all the wrong people. It's like, it's like
Right.
opening
They get
themselves
attention,
up.
take
And I
advantage
just
of
sit there
it, right.
sometimes and I cringe going, oh my God, this is a train wreck waiting to happen.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like, do you
Yeah.
not have a filter?
No, that's
Right?
right.
So,
Yes, I hate that when I see that happening. I'm like, oh,
pick wisely
yeah. Who
where
you're going to be vulnerable.
vulnerable. Vulnerability isn't just something. It's not like, blah, let's throw it out there. I'm going to always be vulnerable. No,
No.
there's places to be and places not to be. There are people to be and people not to be vulnerable with.
Right. Right. Like, I'm not going to give the address where I live, over this medium. Right.
Oh, very good.
Right.
So what?
So though, because I don't need anybody random showing up at my door,
Right. You're saying you got to be wise. And so I look at it and go, well, you know what? I'm valuable.
Right.
And if I'm valuable, Jesus talked about throwing pearls before swine. Right? I'm a pearl.
Well, that's right.
I need to be wise, right? Where so there are certain places I am just not gonna be vulnerable, because wisdom dictates not to be, right? So we're not talking about just this kind of what, there was a show about that or something. I don't know, was it Helen Hunt or somebody that just decided, like, she had a breakdown or something and just started telling the truth?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? You know what I'm saying? I don't know what the name of the movie was, but I remember seeing it. And it was like a disaster. Remember? She was like just being so authentic, but to the point that it was embarrassing. You know what I mean?
Too much.
Yeah,
right.
Too much.
I mean, I think, yeah. I mean, yeah, you're not gonna, I mean, balance. To connect, you don't have to share everything. But there's a saying that I always have picked up on. Somebody said it. I'm not the original quoter, but it's, they don't care what you know until they know you care. So if somebody doesn't think that you're invested in them and you care about them authentically, they're not going to connect. They're not going to care what you are selling, or, I think that authenticity thing does come in there. However, like this girl I was watching today, she was the CEO of IT Cosmetics. It grew into this $1 billion company and she sold it to L'Oreal. But she seems so personable and authentic, you almost feel like she's your best friend. Like she comes across as like a best friend type. Like you could just like really relate to her and what she was saying and this. But there's 200,000 people on there. It's not like she's going to be able to reach out to 200,000 people.
And the truth is, you don't really know if she is authentic. And the reason I say that is that I have been doing this for a long time, and you'd be shocked how many people that can get up in front of masses of people, right? And make you feel like they're your best, everybody's their best friend. Yeah. And in their personal lives are as cold as ice.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I'm sure of it, but I mean, it was just kind of amazing how she connected like that. And she was actually she was one of the ones talking about authenticity and vulnerability. So, you know, and her having such a hard time, she, you know, almost lost everything before she made it. And I think that's what happened. What has to happen is a lot of failures have to happen before you get your success, right? Like those bridges of failures are what builds you to your success. I think. I don't think you just
it's, you know, it's a stripping away process, right?
Right. Yeah. But I mean, I think I mean, in the last couple of days, I mean, I always watch, of course, I follow Larry. Larry is like the podcast or whatever. He follows all these different people, and I tend to follow the same ones now too, because he invited me to like see several of them. He'll share their videos and everything. In fact, Larry, have you shared our stream? Anyway. So he does that. And so I've watched a lot of people, you know, talking about their stories, you know, and I think that is interesting. I think I've seen more personal stories during this pandemic of how people built their businesses than ever before. Like, you know, all of a sudden there's a company, it's successful, you know, it's successful, but you don't know the backstory. So I think it's this time period has really pushed that into the center, don't you think? I mean, I think that because we were all closed up in our houses, that was our way of getting connection, getting back to what you were saying, is becoming authentic and vulnerable and all of those things. But now what? Like, okay, after you're authentic and vulnerable, what next?
You're free.
Free to
be whatever you want to be. You're free to succeed. Free. I mean, you're just free.
Right.
You know, you're free. I mean? So whatever free. You know, so some people, freedom is simplicity. They, so you got to be careful here, because for one person who wants to own a big business and be successful and have a lot of money, for another person, that's prison. They don't want that. So again, it's back to being authentic to who you are.
Right. But don't we all go through phases? Like we're not, okay. So the guy that visualizes the success and he's getting there, and he gets it, doesn't he transition to a different phase? I mean,
well, it depends.
I mean, right? Success, I mean, don't you just like shift? Like you can't stay on like that. I mean, because you'll kill yourself. I mean, of energy, like you'll be zapped of your energy if you're at 100%, nonstop, right? I mean,
well, there's some people. I mean, you're sitting in the city of one of the largest medical software companies in the world, Cerner, and Neil, who I knew for years, never stopped.
Thanks, Larry. Yeah.
You know? I mean, he was driven till the day he died.
Wow.
There, J. Paul Getty, it just depends on what drives you. J. Paul Getty became a billionaire because his dad told him he was never going to amount to anything. So he spent his whole life, you see what I mean? So it just depends.
But was he his authentic self by doing that?
Well, it's just so everybody's so different, how
Right.
success, money, status, all that stuff affects people. It's very interesting. Some people become more inundated in the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They just love the thrill of the facade and pretending they're, you know what I mean? And the problem with money is it gives you all the power to do just that.
Right.
So
Well,
I've
sometimes
been behind the facade of a lot of wealthy people.
yeah. Well, I think sometimes I think I don't want that. And at the same time, then I look at my bank account and go, yeah, I want that. I need that.
You
I
need
need
that.
that. I need that. But it's trying to find my niche of getting there and trying to find that authenticity and that vulnerability to go along with something that is going to be true to me, be true to self. And I want to serve others and serve God and figure out what he wants me to do, in that place, so that's all, it's all mixed together, right? I mean, yeah.
So to be authentic, we've reached our limit. We're 2 minutes over, 2 minutes and 41 seconds over conforming.
But we didn't get to the solution. We didn't get to the end. We didn't get to the crux of it all.
Okay, well,
we didn't get to the crux of it all. Okay, so the point is for authenticity and vulnerability is to connect. After you've connected, then what?
You got a relationship.
Okay, so what do we do with that relationship?
In that relationship, you have what everybody craves, which is intimacy.
Okay. And then
whatever happens, happens.
Listen to me. Can you tell I'm not in a relationship right now? You can tell, right? Then what? Then what happens?
Found the right male to be vulnerable with.
I know. Right. Don't even. Yeah, no. we won't talk about that right now.
That's another whole show.
We won't be that authentic right now or vulnerable. But the point is it's just been interesting that this pandemic has really caused us to go introspective. I think it has caused people to actually become authentic and vulnerable. I think it has helped them to break down walls that they had, built up because we were just too busy. We were just on autopilot. And this has really shifted our whole paradigm. And it's going to continue. So hold on to your britches.
Yep. A lot of change coming.
And get Bob's book, everyone. Like, come on. Buy his book. It's awesome. It's telling, you're going to open it up and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, he's like telling the future. And I'm just saying, tell him the name of your book, Bob.
In the Company of Joseph, when the past becomes the future.
Right. It is awesome. And I'm not saying that just because you're my co-host. I am saying it because I read it and I actually appreciated it. And it makes total sense of what's going on right now. If you want to continue to know what's going on right now, you've got to get his book. It's on Amazon, correct?
Yep.
Okay. I'm gonna put it. And if you want to join me in my next Sash Soundings, and we will be back on Monday morning at 8:45 a.m. Central Daylight Time on Monday. And then Monday night, I have a live on my spiritual health page about
that it's live and not dead.
Unforgiveness.
Oh,
it's about unforgiveness. So I have a series called Slaying the Giants over there. So
okay.
Interesting. So anyway, I want you to take care. Be your authentic, vulnerable self so that you can connect with somebody awesome or other people that are awesome and get together and serve others and do all those fun things.
Good night.
Okay. Good night. I know. I'm behind. I'm behind. I don't know. I didn't have my little thing up.
Join us Monday mornings at 8:45 a.m.